Kenya Kwanza proceeded to launch a full assault on our democracy by buying MPs to give it an unconditional majority in Parliament. And that is how they managed to fraudulently secure the position of speakership in the two houses of Parliament. It did not stop there. Kenya Kwanza proceeded to lay ground for rigging the 2027 election by forcing out 4 IEBC commissioners, then embarking on the process of single-handedly reconstituting the commission to the exclusion of all other stakeholders. Kenya Kwanza did not stop there either. It proceeded to turn Kenya into a one community regime in which key appointments went only to members of that one community. They then proceeded to declare Kenya a private company, in which some Kenyans have shares while others have none. It is against this backdrop that we launched the consultations with the people of Kenya in January this year to figure out how to right the wrongs and secure our future as a country. The rallying call of the consultations was that we reject the 2022 election results and the legitimate regime it produced. We demanded a complete audit of the IEB servers. We called upon Kenyans to reject the punitive order policies that are making life unbearable and demanded the restoration of subsidies to unga, fuel, electricity, and school fees. We also called for the removal of the punitive taxes that have led to a steep rise in the cost of basic goods like unga and fuel. We called for reform and reconstitution of the IEBC in consultation with all players and stakeholders. We also called for an end to the politicization and commercialization of the civil service and the sacking of civil servants on account of tribe and having served in the previous regime. We called for respect between the parties and fidelity to the letter and spirit of multi-party democracy in Parliament. Kenya Kwanza responded to our calls with utter contempt. When all our appeals failed, we invoked Article 37 of our Constitution, which gives every person the right peaceably and unarmed to assemble, to demonstrate, to picket, and to present petitions to public authorities. We also invoked Article 1 of our Constitution, which provides that all sovereign power belongs to the people of Kenya and shall be exercised only in accordance with this Constitution. The people may exercise their sovereign power either directly or through their democratically elected representatives. We took to the streets. Kenya Kwanza followed us there with guns, goons, water cannons, and tear gas. In those attacks, I survived an assassination attempt. Kalonzo Musyoka survived an assassination attempt. Innocent lives were lost. Property was destroyed. In our country, an immediate former president, Uhuru Kenyatta, had his farm attacked and destroyed. It was raided by goons. Last week, Kenya Kwanza was forced to face the reality that we won't be cowed and we won't be intimidated by goons and guns. Kenya Kwanza sent emissaries to Azimio to enter into a constitutional, open-ended, and binding dialogue with the administration to find a resolution to the issues that we have raised about the last year's election and the key governance and cost of living issues facing our country. Their call came in the middle of our engagement with other diverse groups of Kenyans, including religious leaders from all faiths, about the crisis facing our country. They implored us to give dialogue, especially during the holy periods of Easter and Ramadan. It is in this context that we agreed to call off the protests and give dialogue a chance. We are guided by the words of the late John F. Kennedy, who said, and I quote, "Let us never negotiate out of fear, but let us never fear to negotiate," unquote. We go into these negotiations holding the firm belief that our cause is just, our intentions are pure, and our goal is patriotic. We go into these talks convinced that some issues, in particular, lowering the price of food, is urgent, can't wait, and does not even need the talks. Opening of the servers is not negotiable. We agree that a balanced process, spearheaded by members of parliament from both sides and backed by experts, is an appropriate way to proceed. The end product will then be presented to Parliament for approval. We shall send our members to the Select Joint Committee, whose terms of reference shall be to A. Recommend measures to lower the cost of unga, fuel, electricity, and school fees. B. Conduct a review and forensic audit of the servers used by the IEBC before, during, and after the 2022 presidential election. C. Review the appointment and dismissal of IEBC commissioners, including their tenure of office, and recommend institutional, policy, legal, and constitutional mechanisms, restructuring and reforms of the IEBC. D. Consider the reconstructing of IEBC by devolving structures to counties, and whether the country really needs commissioners working on a permanent basis. E. Recommend legal, policy, and institutional reforms to strengthen and improve the electoral system and processes to entrench a culture of free and fair elections administered in an impartial, transparent, simple, accurate, verifiable, and secure system. F. Review the circumstances that led to the dismissal of the IEBC commissioners, commonly known as the Cherera Four, and reinstate them in office. G. Review and recommend changes in the law that will entrench party discipline, fidelity, by 1. Requiring MPs who cross party lines after the elections to seek a fresh mandate from the electorate. And 2. To allow parties to replace nominated MPs who cross party lines. H. Initiate legislation to address the electoral, governance, and economic gaps identified during the inquiry for consideration by the Houses as appropriate. The Joint Task Force shall present its report to Parliament within 30 days of its establishment. Finally, we reiterate 3 important points. 1, as J.F. Kennedy said, and I quote, "Civility is not a sign of weakness, and sincerity is always subject to proof." Unquote. 2, the rights to assemble, demonstrate, petition, and speak are ironclad as provided for in our Constitution. 3, we reserve our right to call for demonstrations should this process not bear fruit.